My name is David. I divorced at the age of 25 and took it as an opportunity to enroll in medical school, fulfilling my long-held dream of becoming a doctor. After completing my residency and working at a university hospital for about 2 years, I started my own practice last year, marking a new beginning in my life. I used to lack confidence. Despite growing up in a warm family, I became accustomed to suppressing my own desires to avoid causing any trouble for my parents, often yielding to others' wishes. My ex-wife, Jessica, was one of those people. David, let's go to Hawaii on our next day off. But we just went to Mexico. I don't have enough money. What? Not able to take your girlfriend to where she wants to go? What a loser. Well, if you could chip in a little. Why should I pay for anything? You're a man, aren't you? Having worked straight after high school, I had a longer work history than Jessica, who was a college student at the time. Still, jobs available to high school graduates didn't pay much back then. It was enough for me to live on my own, but Jessica, somehow convinced that my longer work history equaled higher wages, expected me to pay for all our dates. She was extravagant with money, insisting on trips during long vacations. She never spent any of her own money, always cunningly relying on mine. Yet, lacking confidence and feeling it was a miracle to have a girlfriend despite my low salary and high school education, I couldn't bring myself to leave Jessica. Jessica, on her part, had no intention of working after graduating from college, often saying, "You'll make me a stay-at-home wife, right?" So, I was pressured into registering our marriage. The wedding ended up being a grand affair. I had suggested a ceremony that suited our means, but she wouldn't listen, and we ended up having a lavish wedding funded by both her parents and mine. I would never allow such a thing now, but back then, I convinced myself that if Jessica was happy, that was all that mattered. The real nightmare began once we were married and living together. Jessica had insisted on handling our household finances and was adamant about holding onto my paycheck. However, she was shocked when she first saw my pay stub. Ever since then, I've been constantly berated for having a low salary. In addition to that, she drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes. Furthermore, she claimed it was my fault she needed these stress relievers and began serving me only bread and pickles. She wouldn't cook and would eat delicious store-bought side dishes in front of me. I was constantly called a low earner and worthless man. During this time, I experienced a turning point. One morning, I found myself unable to get out of bed. Despite this, Jessica demanded I go to work, saying it was my responsibility as the low earner, and left for her day. I managed to get up and went to the hospital, not work. Ashamedly, I had to borrow money from my parents as I had none. The diagnosis was mild malnutrition and depression. I was advised to take a leave from work. I returned home, dreading Jessica's reaction. When I explained the situation and mentioned taking a leave of absence from work, Jessica became more hysterical than usual and hit me. "You're such a useless man. How can you be so worthless? Not earning enough money and now getting sick. I want a divorce." All right. Honestly, I was relieved at the prospect of divorce and watched Jessica leave. Finally free, I took a month off as prescribed, but recovered from depression in just 2 weeks, realizing it was Jessica, not work, that had caused it. During the remaining 2 weeks, I thought about my future with a clear mind, likely due to resuming cooking for myself. With Jessica gone and the ability to manage my own finances, I started cooking for myself again, probably the reason for the improvement. As nutrition began circulating through my body again, I started to function better. Thinking about the future with a clear mind was enjoyable. That's when I made a decision. The decision was to pursue my childhood dream of attending medical school. Back then, I lacked the courage to chase that dream. Since I had no other aspirations besides becoming a doctor, I had declined going to university to avoid wasting money and started working, as per my parents' wishes. They were worried about me but respected my decision, always saying life can always be restarted. But after my marriage and divorce with Jessica, I learned firsthand the dangers of living a life centered around others and the importance of living by my own principles. For the first time, I seriously considered what kind of life I wanted to lead. I still wanted to become a doctor. Now, I felt I could do it. I had nothing to lose. From there, things moved quickly. I humbly asked my parents if I could move back home until I graduated from medical school. Thankfully, they also agreed to help with tuition, and combining this with the savings I had hidden from Jessica, I managed to make it work. The next step was to pass the medical school entrance exam, so I spent a year holed up in my room at home, studying intensely. Having not studied seriously since high school, I initially struggled with finding the right study methods. Upon discussing this with my family, they suggested enrolling in a cram school, so I started with a summer intensive course. The plan was to continue for a year if it proved effective. It turned out to be a great decision. I clicked with the teacher, making studying more efficient, and I was able to grasp the key points I needed. My mock exam scores improved dramatically over the summer, and I decided to continue with this teacher for the year. I paid for the cram school fees myself. As autumn came and the February entrance exams approached, I intensified my study efforts. I studied intensively at the cram school 3 times a week. For the remaining 4 days, I dedicated myself to self-study at home. I did nothing else but study. Aside from meals, bathroom breaks, and baths, I was always at my desk. Then, on the day of the entrance exam, I was so nervous I must have gone to the bathroom at least 5 times that morning. Seeing me like this, my parents looked worried, but I headed to the exam venue with anti-diarrhea medicine as my talisman. At the venue, I saw younger students nervously reading their textbooks. Seeing them, I felt a bit more relaxed. They knew only this world. I had already experienced working, marriage, and divorce. Why should I, with all my experience, be nervous? I reminded myself of this. I reviewed until the last minute using the final review list I got from the cram school. And then, the exam ended. Not to boast, but I felt I did better than expected. With 3 weeks until the results, I enjoyed a brief break. On the day of the results, it was finally the announcement day. Though I told myself it was okay if I didn't pass this first attempt, I still wanted to succeed. Perhaps I felt rushed because I was a bit older. I was too scared to look at the notice board with the numbers. Clutching the paper with my exam number, I stood frozen on the spot. I talked to myself desperately. Even if I failed here, I could study for another year. It wouldn't be my first time studying, so I should be able to level up from last year. It's not like it's decided I can become a doctor. It's just delayed. My life is mine to decide, right? Even if I fail here, I'll keep moving on, right? As I had this internal conversation, the moment came. I lifted my face towards the notice board. There it was. I had passed. Incredibly, I passed the medical school entrance exam on my first try. I couldn't believe it. Tears overflowed right there and then. After enduring a hellish marriage, I had worked tirelessly to change myself. I had firsthand experienced that effort pays off. But this was no time to cry. The real challenge in medical school was just beginning. I had only reached the starting point of my future as a doctor. Yet, I was overjoyed. By centering my life around my own decisions, I learned to take responsibility for my actions. Everything I decided was my own responsibility, which was nerve-wracking, but the joy was doubled when things turned out well. I hurried home to share the news with my parents. Upon hearing of my success, they too were moved to tears. My parents never once doubted me throughout my life. They must have been very worried. What were they thinking, watching their son give up on his dream just because he lacked confidence? Though late, I felt like I had finally done something to make them proud. Seeing their relieved faces, I resolved to work even harder and be a better son. There was about a month before school started. I was busy with enrollment paperwork and other tasks. Yet, I wasn't bothered at all. I was too excited. I continued living with my parents during my studies, so I didn't have to worry about rent. I'm truly grateful for this environment that allows me to focus solely on my studies. Originally, I planned to use my savings for part of the tuition, but my parents insisted that I keep it for living expenses. As I would be too busy to work, they decided to cover all my tuition fees. Medical school is expensive. When I asked if they were sure, they revealed they had been saving for my education since the day I muttered about wanting to become a doctor. Parents are incredible. Before classes started in earnest, there was an orientation at the university, which I attended. There, I met Emily, who is now my fiancée. By chance, Emily and I were the same age. She had graduated from a different university and worked for a while but couldn't give up her dream of becoming a doctor, so she quit her job to start medical school. Our circumstances were almost identical, except for the marriage and divorce. Emily and I, sharing similar circumstances, quickly hit it off. We exchanged contact information and kept in touch constantly until university started. My life felt completely different once I shifted to living by my own values. Those difficult years seemed meaningful now, as they led me to my current life. Emily suggested we work on a report together, so we met at a cafe near the university and collaborated, debating and discussing as we worked. We had similar goals, and, being the same age, we enjoyed each other's company. Time passed, and Emily and I were in our third year of medical school. By then, we were spending nearly every day together. I officially asked her out, and we became a couple. Our top priority has always been our studies. Becoming doctors is our ultimate goal. We promised each other not to lose sight of these two objectives as we continue our journey. With Emily, I felt we could motivate each other, and our time together made us work twice as hard. Our dates mainly consist of studying in cafes and taking walks on the way home. Occasionally, we go to the movies. Both of us living at home, we spent about half a year like this, and Emily said she was happy. After 6 months, I introduced Emily to my parents. Having gone through the experience with Jessica, I was a bit nervous, but my parents were delighted and welcomed Emily warmly. From then on, Emily and I started spending days at my parents' house when we didn't feel like going out or just wanted to relax. "Look at this, Dave. You bought that. I was actually thinking about getting it too. I can lend it to you after I'm done reading it, if you can wait." "I can wait, so I'm buying it now. Let's exchange our thoughts after we've both finished reading it." In this way, Emily and I spent our time peacefully, never fighting. Always positive, Emily is an independent and straightforward woman. Yet she has this adorable side that makes me feel she's too good for me. I often think how great it would be to become fully qualified and marry Emily. Whenever I mention this, Emily always insists that she has no intention of being supported by me, and that it's fine even if I'm not fully established yet. What a strong woman she is. Well, our dream is to become fully fledged doctors, so there really isn't an option not to become one. Time passed, and graduation approached. Both Emily and I managed to graduate without any delays. It was a miracle I got into medical school on my first try, let alone graduating straight through. It's all because Emily and I worked hard together. By the time of our graduation, I had decided to propose to Emily. For our graduation celebration, we dined at a fancy restaurant we wouldn't usually go to and enjoyed the night view. I felt too embarrassed to propose in the restaurant, so I planned to do it during our usual walk. Although our usual walking path was nice, Tonight's path with its beautiful night view made me feel quite romantic. We're finally graduating. Yeah, we really did our best. It's all thanks to you. I would have struggled a lot more if I were alone. We both supported each other, right? It's good that we'll both be in our hometown for our internships, even though they are different places. Yes, but honestly, I'm a bit anxious. About what? We've been together for 3 years, but if you count from the day we entered school, it's been 6 years. I'm a little sad to think about the days we won't be able to see each other now, but I bet we'll be too busy to worry about it. Though, about that, I don't think I could find another partner who motivates me as much as you do. And you know, I used to lack confidence and felt anxious every day, but being with you, I've started to like myself. That's why I want us to be together forever. Of course, I know, I know we'll be fine. But to make us feel even more secure and as a mark of my commitment, Emily, will you marry me? Really? I'm so happy I'm crying. Of course I will. Emily accepted my proposal with tears and a radiant smile. From that day, Emily became my fiancée. We decided not to register our marriage during our internship period to focus on our training. Both my parents and Emily's were overjoyed and supported us wholeheartedly. We discussed living together during our internship, but decided it would be too challenging with the new job, so we continued living at our respective homes for a while. 2 years into our internships, after some ups and downs, Emily and I continued to motivate each other and made it through. As we both aimed to become pediatric specialists in the next 3 years, living together seemed more convenient. So about 2 years after getting engaged, we finally decided to move in together. We planned to register our marriage once we were ready to start our own practices after these 3 years. Neither of us was particularly focused on the formalities of marriage, as we were always together and focused on our life goals. However, since it would be Emily's first marriage, we promised her parents to officially register at the appropriate time. Both families were incredibly supportive as we planned everything and kept them informed. We squeezed in time to search for a place to live amid our busy schedules. I usually went along with Emily's opinions, as she had strong preferences for our home and I wasn't particularly interested. We visited several places and Emily always looked happy. She talked endlessly about furniture arrangement and themes. Our incomes as interns weren't high, so we couldn't afford a luxurious home, but any place was fine as long as we were together. We settled on a 2-bed apartment. Choosing furniture was something we could do in our free time, but for things like applying for and setting up utilities, which are difficult to schedule around, our parents were a great help, especially when Emily and I couldn't find time together due to our busy schedules. I'm truly grateful for their assistance. After we successfully moved in, we held a celebration with both our families. If it weren't for everyone, we couldn't have made it this far. Thank you so much. Really, we're so lucky to have such supportive parents. Thank you. Cheers. We took the next day off, so we spent that night enjoying a long, happy dinner, talking and laughing together. I never imagined such happy days would come to me, especially during the time I was with Jessica. Nutritional deficiency in this day and age, I wonder why I ever accepted being treated that way. After our parents left, Dave, I don't really like talking about the past, but what's up? Remember, you can ask me anything. I have told Emily everything about Jessica. This includes all the reasons for our divorce. I didn't want to portray Jessica as a villain, so I made sure to explain that my own lack of confidence was also part of the issue. Moreover, I acknowledged that there might be times when being with someone who is divorced like me could cause her anxiety. I had told her to feel free to ask me anything during such times. It's not that I'm anxious, but I just want you to know that I'll never let you suffer from nutritional deficiency. What? It's just, thinking of how wonderful you are makes me sad that you were treated that way. Emily, you're really funny and kind. With you, I'll never go back to being who I was before. Besides, now I'm confident enough to at least feed myself properly. I know, but I might not be able to express it well, but I want to take good care of you, Dave. Thank you. I'm definitely going to make you happy. And so, our first night living together was sweet and affirming, cementing my belief that Emily is indeed my lifelong partner. It was the first time a woman had ever said she would take care of me. Emily constantly surprises me in the best ways. Emily taught me that it's okay for a man to rely on someone else. She also showed me that it's okay for a man to cry. Furthermore, Emily taught me the importance of valuing each other equally. Years later, Emily and I successfully obtained our pediatric specialist licenses. We were working at a university hospital while planning to start our own practice. Around that time, I heard from a local friend that Jessica had remarried. Since I'm not on social media, I had no idea what she'd been up to, but apparently, she married the owner of a construction company in our hometown. My friends, who had always sided with me, never shared any information about me with Jessica. However, since Jessica actively posted her life updates on social media, everyone knew what she was doing. It seemed she had been dating men who could financially support her since our divorce, but she seemed dedicated to her new husband. Well, for Jessica, it's probably dedication to his money. I glanced through her social media history, which my friend showed me. Jessica had transformed into a flashy woman with blonde hair and leopard print attire. The photos posted were all of meals at high-end restaurants. There were also pictures of brand-name clothes and bags she had purchased, as well as luxury accessories that she apparently received as gifts. The content was so excessive that just looking at it made me feel almost queasy, so I closed the phone halfway through and handed it back to my friend. Even when she was married to me, she used to post photos from trips we couldn't afford, just for show. I wonder how much of her current life is real. Honestly, I'm more worried about her new husband. I wonder if he's not being pushed too hard. If she married him just for his title of being a president, the treatment at home might be quite harsh. If he is indeed a company president, there might not be a financial hit, but I worry about the company's stability dealing with someone like Jessica, who doesn't understand limits. As I was thinking about this on my way home, I was greeted by the delicious smell of curry. "You're back. I've made curry. Such a nice smell. I'm so happy." What's with the sudden sentiment, Dave? Finding happiness in curry. You're such a wonderful person. I shared with Emily the encounter I had earlier, about how I'm grateful for finding happiness in everyday things, not in money, and how it's all thanks to her. I ended up sharing everything with her. That's nice. I don't have much material desire either. I find happiness in experiences and doing what I want. I can't really relate to your ex-wife, but I hope she's happy in her own way. What? Well, she got what she wanted, right? A wealthy husband. If that makes her happy, then that's good for her. I just hope she isn't mistreating her new husband. Yeah, Emily, being able to wish happiness for your fiance's ex-wife. How incredible are you? I'm almost moved to tears. It's just a lack of interest. I don't want her unhappy and coming back to affect you, Dave. I see. Emily is truly remarkable. Even making light of it, it's something not many people can say. If Emily had an ex-husband, I'd want to erase his existence. I can bear the thought of someone else knowing a side of her I don't. So, realizing her magnanimity, I was deeply moved. We decided to use our rare day off for a hot spring trip. Next month would be the final push for opening our practice, which meant we'd be extremely busy. So, before that, we wanted to relax. I had already submitted my resignation at the university hospital and was using up my paid leave. Emily planned to join the clinic after it was established, so she would continue at the university hospital for a while longer. Today and tomorrow, we decided to indulge and even bought first-class tickets for the train. And as we were finding our seats, "Wait a minute, David, aren't you David? Jessica, long time no see. You still look as poor as ever. This car isn't for poor people like you, pretending to be something you're not by sitting in first class. How embarrassing. Good thing I left you when I did. I'm now married to a company president and set for life. Hello." As I stood there, speechless, Emily popped her head out from behind me and greeted Jessica. "And you are?" "I'm Dave's fiancée, Emily. Getting engaged to such a poor man, you're going to have a hard time. I was smart enough to escape in our early days. Thanks to that, I married a president and am set for life. You must be jealous." "Indeed, how wonderful. What's with the attitude? You're just another poor couple, aren't you? Don't be jealous." "Jessica, that's enough. Emily, let's go to our seats." Emily smiled politely at Jessica and followed me. I was impressed by her composure. Honestly, my knees were shaking. It's not so much fear of the current Jessica, but a flashback to the trauma of the past. Emily, noticing my cold sweat, was concerned about me. She kindly went and bought me a drink. We weren't too far from Jessica and her husband's seats, but far enough not to hear their conversation, which was a relief. As we were talking about looking forward to the hot springs. "Is there a doctor on board? Anyone?" We heard cries for a doctor in the train. Turning around, we saw an elderly person collapsed behind Jessica's seat, face pale. Emily and I rushed over immediately. "We're both doctors. What happened?" He ordered a drink and was already shaking a bit. As soon as I handed it to him, he collapsed. "Here, Dave, use this." "I see, it could be hypoglycemia. Do you have any Coke or chocolate?" "Wait, what kind of joke is this? David being a doctor? That's impossible. If you perform medical acts without qualification, that's a crime. Stay away. Just be quiet." Startled by my shout, something she had never experienced from me, Jessica was clearly shaken and fell silent amidst the commotion in the train. Amidst the chaos, Emily and I swiftly attended to the patient. "Here's the Coke and chocolate." "Thank you. Dave, shall we try giving him some Coke first?" "Wait a second. Are you okay? Can you hear me?" There was a faint response. Without intravenous glucose on the train, it was crucial to get him to ingest a sugar-rich drink or food to avoid danger. "He's responding. Okay, look for a glucose meter in his bag." "Got it." "Sir, we're going to measure your blood glucose level now, okay? It will sting a bit." The symptoms clearly indicated hypoglycemia, but we measured his blood glucose level to be sure. We pricked his finger and set the blood on the meter. As expected, his blood glucose level was dangerously low. "Confirmed hypoglycemia. Emily, can you help him drink the Coke? I'll arrange for an ambulance at the next station." "Understood." As Emily helped him sip the Coke through a straw, the man's color visibly returned. By the time we reached the next station, he was able to converse. We had him taken in an ambulance to the hospital for a thorough checkup. "David, are you really a doctor?" "Yeah, I am." "But when you were married to me, you were just a nobody." "Maybe I was." Jessica, faced with my calm response, turned pale. She probably thought she had missed a golden opportunity. In her mind, being a doctor equated to being wealthy. Her attitude towards me hadn't changed. She still saw me as worthless. "When did you become a doctor? If I had known you had such intentions, I wouldn't have divorced you. I decided right after our divorce. I thought I had nothing to lose and decided to pursue my long-held dream. Thanks to that, I met Emily. I'm happy now." "Why couldn't you have done that when we were married? If you were a doctor then, I could have had a better life. I don't live to make you comfortable." "What? Isn't it obvious for a man to support a woman? What kind of adolescent fantasy are you spouting? And your fiancée? She must be after your money too. Actually, I'm a doctor too, so there's no need for me to rely on him financially." "What? Then you don't need David. Break up with him. Why should we? I'm happy with her." "Come back to me, David. You'll have someone to provide for. That's more motivating, right? Do you even know what you're saying? Hello, you realize that I'm here too?" You be quiet. They are doctors. They earn way more than you, right, David? Leave her and be with me instead, please. That's impossible. Incredibly, upon learning that I had become a doctor, Jessica suggested getting back together with me. And she did this right in front of her husband. Her husband was left speechless. Of course, it was shocking to encounter someone so blatantly disrespectful. Jessica, right. I won't be leaving Dave, even if he doesn't earn a penny. You're only saying that because David is a doctor now. If he were actually poor, you'd run away in an instant. That's not true. We met right after I entered university, after my divorce with you. I had no money then and was living at my parents' house. When we started dating, I was still a student with no guarantee of becoming a doctor. Yet, Emily found happiness in the small things of everyday life and chose to be with me. In my opinion, Dave was admirable, working hard and staying focused during tough times. I was attracted to his personality, not his potential future. What man doesn't equate to money? It's all about how much a man can provide to a woman, right? Love doesn't matter. I can't take this anymore. I'm leaving. Wait, Michael, where are you going? We haven't even reached our destination. I'm going to my parents' house today. I'll have my lawyer send you the divorce papers. Wait, what are you talking about? You wanted to get back with your ex-husband, right? I'd rather be with someone who sees me as a person. I've been patient, but I'm done. Goodbye. Michael, wait. How can you leave a woman alone like this? David, you saw that, right? He's worthless. I had to be with someone like that. Protect me. I understand him, though. Being treated as less than human is harder than you think. If a man keeps providing, I'll treat him properly. That mindset. You don't know the effort it takes to earn money. You probably just spend it without thinking. Even a president like him bears a heavy responsibility. Your lack of gratitude is appalling. And just so you know, Dave didn't become a doctor for money. That's impossible. No doctor would do that. Well, that doctor is right here. I'm content as long as I can live. Emily feels the same. Being happy together is what matters most. Something you'll probably never understand. Dave, our station. Goodbye, Jessica. I doubt we'll ever meet again. Wait, what am I supposed to do alone? Leaving Jessica yelling in the train. Emily and I got off at our station. Sorry for showing you that mess. Dave, you were so cool, and I take back what I said. Take back what? She won't be happy. Right. That was the end of the topic about Jessica. Emily and I changed the topic and returned to our usual selves, looking forward to our wonderful hot spring trip. On the way to the hotel, I was honestly overwhelmed with shock, unable to believe my past self. How did I ever get caught up with such a woman? It was clear, a woman who blatantly says men are only for money. Every time her image crossed my mind, I looked at Emily's smile and felt happy again. When we arrived at the hotel, we fully enjoyed the hot springs and delicious food. Afterward, I heard Jessica begged her husband not to divorce her. But of course, he said no. After divorcing me, she was still young and had men flocking around her, but as she approached her late 30s, no one wanted to be with someone who only cared about money. She refused to change her ways. Somehow, she got my number and started calling me, still asking for financial support. At first, I answered as I didn't recognize the number, but it was just her usual demands. She even suggested I give her an allowance without marrying her, which was utterly absurd. I immediately blocked her number. She had chased away all her friends with her behavior, leaving her completely isolated. Even her parents were outraged when they learned the whole story and cut ties with her completely. No one knows where she ended up after losing all her options. Meanwhile, Emily and I got married the following month. We had a small, intimate ceremony at a church, celebrated by our families. Emily looked so beautiful in her wedding dress, I cried, but that's just between us. For our honeymoon, we went to Massachusetts for a week to enjoy delicious seafood, as she preferred domestic travel. She's always been modest and warm-hearted. After returning, we started preparing for the opening of our clinic. While Emily was still working at the university hospital, I mostly handled the preparations for our clinic on my own, and it turned out to be more challenging than I had anticipated. However, with Emily's advice, we successfully opened a clinic. We made a great start aiming to become a community-oriented pediatric clinic. We had already arranged a partnership with the university hospital where Emily and I used to work, so we could refer patients we couldn't handle to them. Thanks to this, we quickly gained the community's trust, and in just 6 months, our clinic became the go-to place for pediatric care. Once the clinic was stable, Emily resigned from the university hospital to work with me. A clinic run by a pair of married doctors was quite rare, attracting attention and even getting featured in the local newspaper. Emily was exceptionally skilled in handling children, impressing even me, a fellow pediatrician. But Emily didn't want to stop there. Next, Emily plans to obtain a qualification as a child psychologist. Having more specialties than just 2 pediatricians in our small clinic seemed like a good idea, especially since the mental health of children can significantly impact their future. Emily has been interested in this field since her university days. After discussing it together, we decided on our next goal, to eventually expand our clinic to include both pediatric internal medicine and mental health services. Working towards this goal, we're committed to spending our days together, both seriously and joyfully.